Alright y'all, I'm working on another video here, and this one I'm actually adding some stuff into it. I already made this video for Kathy at Bigfoot World, and I'll add the link in here. She already shared the video on her YouTube, so look in the description here. I'll add the link to it, and then I'm gonna play it now, and I'm gonna add a little bit of extra stuff into it also as well, just for like teaching and some forensic stuff and science. Kind of show you what I've been doing. Alright, so check it out. Check out her YouTube. Okay y'all, we're going to do another hair examining for Kathy Westerman and Bigfoot World and her group. This is some hairs that Kathy took off of a fence on some private property where she found a nice footprint. So we're going to take a look at this hair and examine it. Alright, so let's get our gloves on. Alright, let's see what we got here. Alright, so I'm going to bring the camera over closer. Alright. Alright, hair from Kathy's fence. Okay, I'm going to move this out of the way. And when we're done here, I'll get this back to Kathy. Alright, can you see that? Alright, so just looking at them with the eyes here. That looks similar to human hair, but a little bit thicker. So these are a couple, one of them's pretty long. Alright, so first let's look at them with the, alright, so I'm bringing up the camera on the laptop. And then we're going to plug in the digital microscope. Okay, and I'm going to hit record. Okay, so we're recording on the digital microscope to the laptop. Okay, so we're recording on the digital microscope to the laptop. So I'm going to move this around a little and Okay, so this is the black vine moss. Here we go. So this is the black vine moss. It really looked like hairs too. This stuff can really fool you. Alright, so I'm going to move this around a little and try to look at the ends here. Okay, so this is the black vine moss. Okay, so right here. Alright, here we go. So this is the black vine moss. It really looked like hairs too. This stuff can really fool you. Alright, so you can see right here where it's twisted a little there. And then it's got odd shapes to it. There we go. See how it twists and it flattens out there, and so this is a black vine moss. So I know it's disappointing when you find hairs like this that you think are real hairs, and you find them with other evidence, like you found these with footprints. Okay, so in this video here, when I started doing it, so the first thing I mainly do is I'm looking to see if it's actually hair or if it's a fiber. And that's what I found here, that it was the fiber. It was the organic fiber. What I keep calling the black vine moss. And if you look back through my videos too, you'll see that at the beginning I was finding a lot of that. And at first it was fooling me. I thought it was hairs at first. And a lot of times it looks like hairs until you get under the digital microscope and can get a real close zoomed in view of it. See how it twists and it flattens out there in this. So this is a black vine moss. So I know it's disappointing when you find hairs like this that you think are real hairs, and you find them with other evidence, like you found these with footprints. And then these really fool you. They fooled me a lot when I first started doing this research. Alright. So I'm going to put these back in the bag here, and now we know what they are. So I was going to look at these with the digital microscope, the compound microscope, and I was going to use the nail polish again too to make, with the slides, to make a cast of the hair. So this is not hair, so this is the black vine moss. So this stuff can really fool you too. I did a lot of research on this when I first started finding it, and I was trying to make sure that they were hairs. And I've had a real hard time finding the name of this, what it's called. It's like a type of mushroom type vine. Okay, so that's back in there. I'm gonna give that back to Kathy. But I found the name one time. Somebody shared it, and I copied it down, and I shared it, and now I can't find it. And I've looked and looked again, trying to Google it and search for it, and I can't find it again. But it's like a type of mushroom. I thought at first it was a type of a lichen. So I thought at first it was some type of a lichen or something like that. Some type of plant material. So it's actually a type of a mushroom, but it grows in a vine. And I've tried Googling it and searching for it a lot, and I can't find it again. But there's a name for it. It's just trying to find it again. But that stuff will really fool you. I did a lot of research on it, and testing the strength of it, seeing how it broke, and testing it with the lighter, and looking at it with the microscope. And it's that's mainly what I call it, is a black vine moss. Although I think it's not really a moss, it's really a like a mushroom type thing. Because all the kind of moss and stuff that I could find, nothing looked like it. Nothing looked the same. And then, like I said, that one person shared something to me that one time, and it was titled a mushroom of some type of mushroom vine, and when I looked at that and looked into it, that's what it was, and it was the exact same thing. All right, so I know that's disappointing to look for hairs like that, and I was all set up here too, ready to look at it with both microscopes and do a cast of it and examine that with the microscope, like I did before. But we'll find more hairs, and Kathy will find more hairs. There's more out there that to be found. That was a really good find, the ones on the tires. So y'all go back and look at that video and watch that. They had a really good find there with those hairs there that were snagged onto a tire that was way out there in the woods. And I'm going to do some more hair examining too coming up before long. I've got more I want to look at now too, since I got the compound microscope. So I'll be doing more research like that as well. Alright, so thank y'all for watching. Also, if you'll go back through my videos, you'll see where I did a hair examination from where they found hairs on a tire. You can go back and look into my videos and look at that. And you can also go to Kathy's YouTube and see it, because I sent that to her as well, and she did the video on that. So you can go back to hers, and then hers, on her video, she shows some of the footage when they found the hairs and where they were at, and when they found the hairs. So I'll put that video in the description too. I'll put the link to it in the description. Alright. If you go back through my videos too, you'll see I've done a lot of videos on collecting hairs and examine them with the microscope. So I've got a lot of experience with that now as well. So you can go back through and see a lot of that. Okay, so before we get too far into this, let me go ahead and show you some things here that I've been learning, so I can do this and show you some things that we're looking for here. Alright, so I've been doing a lot of research on the hairs and what we're looking for here with the microscopes. I'm going to look at these with my microscope. So I've actually got two microscopes now. Okay, if you can see that, there's some hair right there. This is where I found hairs that had clear hairs mixed in it. And the hairs had colors to them and everything. Color variations. That looks like moss right there. These are looking like what I found before, right here in the same area of fence right here. And those are look at this. This is clear hair. Some more clear hairs there with it, with some brownish on them. Okay, we're going to start our video on examining our hairs. We just recently bought this microscope, and it's going to plug into the laptop, and then we can see it on the laptop. And I'm going to put my gloves on to handle the hairs. And I have several different animal hairs here. I have deer and hog and raccoon hairs. I have a friend gave me some horse hairs. We're going to check the horse hairs. I have some moss that I collected, some strands of moss that look similar to the hairs. We're going to look at them. And then I have what I believe is a clear hair that I found in with the Bigfoot hairs that I've been finding. And we're going to look at some of these. These are all Bigfoot hairs that I have here. So we're going to look at them. We're here in our laboratory. Alright, so we're going to get set up here, and I'm going to put the gloves on. Also, I'm putting the gloves on to do this video, to pull the hairs out and handle them. Although I'm not really worried about contaminating anything with anything from me, because I'm not sending any of these off to be tested or anything. This is just for examining them myself. But I have learned that from now on when I collect hairs out in the field, I'm going to put the gloves on and use paper envelopes. Put all the hairs in paper envelopes and mark them. That's and here where something's been crossing under the fence. I'm collecting some hair samples too while I'm out here if I find hairs on the fence. And study some of the hairs. I'm collecting hog hairs and deer hairs, whatever else I can find. There's hog tracks out here. There's some hair right there. There's hog hair. There's hog tracks right there. Hogs have been crossing it. So I'm going to go ahead and get that hog hair and put it in the bag. Okay, here's some hairs I found. So I'm going to keep these. I'm not sure what kind these are. These are on the bottom two strands. Okay, I got them off. So I'm not real sure what those are. I took this off a barbed wire fence. So I can see it's got some damage to it. So that's got some damage. And it actually looks like it could have been hanging there for a while. It might have some plants starting to grow on it. Some plant life or mold starting to grow on it there. Alright, so let's go to the other end of it. And that end had a root on it and it's damaged. It's got a lot of damage to it. This, I believe, all this here was wild hog. Of course, I took it off the fence. So again, this is what we're looking at. This is the one I just showed, the damage on the root. And this is what I was showing now. Alright, so I'm trying to do as much forensic and scientific as I can doing this research. So that's one of the reasons to check out this hair like we're doing. Alright, so this talks about trichology being the scientific study of hair, and for it not only for it to benefit medication and cosmetics, but it can also be used for a forensic scientist, like looking at crime scenes, figuring out crime scenes. So even though we're not trying to like find a Bigfoot and find what he did wrong or anything like that, but just using this as part of our research. So being able to use the microscopes and learning what we're looking for here. So let me just read this little part here. The microscope investigation of hair is a big part of forensic investigations. Just like fingerprints, hair type is unique to each individual. We have soft, medium, hard, thick, coarse, straight, curly, damaged, colored hair with numerous combinations of all of the above. And hair also absorbs chemicals like metals from the surrounding environment when it grows. All these properties can be used in forensic science to identify individual persons. So I think that applies here as well too, because some of the different hairs that we found, you can see there's different coloring to them. There's some damage to them, but most of the time the damaged parts are like where they're caught on the barbed wire fence, and that's where I'm getting a lot of my hairs from. And like Kathy's hair here that she found, they found it hung up in a tire, in part of a damaged part of a tire. Another reason that makes the hair a valuable tool for forensic investigation is its durability. Hair is more resistant to decay than most other body tissues and fluids, thus remaining intact far longer than other evidence. This durability makes hair one of the most frequently found pieces of evidence at crime scenes. And the hairs are one of the pieces of evidence that we find when we're out doing our research. You have footprints, you have hairs, you have tree structures. We get audio, we get game camera footage, photos, things like that. So this the DNA is found in the root of the hairs, can be taken from the root of the hairs. So that makes the forensic part of this pretty valuable. Alright, so there's three types of hair analysis for forensic scientists. The morphology under the microscope, so using the microscope to study the hair scale pattern, its color, and the appearance of the medulla. So the scale pattern is what I'm seeing on some of these hairs. And I'll show you that here in a few minutes too. And then the color is what I'm seeing using the digital hand microscope that I've been using. We've been seeing the colors all along with that. And with the new microscope now, the compound microscope, I'm seeing the scale patterns. And now we're going to start looking for the medulla too. Alright, so I'm pretty new to this as far as with the compound microscope. I just now opened it up and started using it. And I've been doing a lot of research here to make sure what I'm looking for and what I'm doing. Okay, so I've been learning, like here it says, an experienced forensic scientist can easily tell if the hair specimen is from humans or from animals. So I've been learning that a lot too right here doing this research, and I've been learning the differences between the animal and the human hairs. Alright, so I'm going to move on here. Okay, here's where they talk about the DNA from the cell of the root. Okay, so the medulla. I'm going to come back to this in a second. I want to go back here to another one. Okay, the medulla. The medulla is in the core of the hair. And I'm not going to read all this, but it has to do with moisture in the hair. The medulla holds the moisture in the hair. And the outside part of the hair called the cuticle. So the outside layer of the hair called the cuticle, it lets the moisture in to get into the where the medulla. Okay, so this is just showing us the hair, as you can see on the outside, is called the cuticle, and that has the scales around the outside. And you'll see here in a few minutes they look different than on a human than they do on a Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Alright, and then you can see the medulla inside. Okay, so all hairs don't have the medulla. Okay, so the medulla here, the top one that they're showing here, the fragmentary or trace, and the discontinuous or broken, those are usually human. And some of the human hairs don't have the medulla, and some of them do, and they can be broken up. Where you find them in some of the hairs, they can be broken up. And the continuous medulla is usually in the animals. From what I'm seeing here, the animals have the continuous medulla. Okay, so the human hairs, the medulla is usually 1/3 less of the hair diameter. where the animals are usually about half of the hair diameter. Alright, and then here's some of the animal hairs. So I've got a few of these that I've collected. But you can see the human one. They're close to high in the middle. It's got just a little bit of medulla in it, and it's broken up. And then I've got some other hairs here that we'll look at soon too. I've got deer, cattle, horse. I got possum and raccoon. I've got deer. Oh, I already said deer. I've got quite a few. They've got brown bear on here, but we have black bear here in Florida. So that's some of the hairs and what they would look like under the microscope. Alright, and then the human hairs. Like this is showing a human whisker hair having a broken up medulla. Yeah, this is showing some of the different medullas, how they would look in in different hairs. Okay, so studying some of this, I'm learning about the differences in the fibers and the hairs. And the fibers is usually what we're finding usually in fibers is usually plant, like the cabbage palms. The cabbage palms have a fiber that looks similar to hair. The palmetto ferns, they have some fibers that look similar to hairs. There's a type of it's some type of mushroom. I found the actual name for it one time before, and I've been trying to find it again. But it looks like hair. It looks like long black hair, but it's actually a vegetation, and it can really fool you sometimes. And I did some videos on it when I first started doing this, thinking it was hair, and I come to find out that it was actually just some. It's not called a vine, but I've been calling it a black vine moss. It's not really a vine. It kind of grows out in a thin vine, but it's black, and it's got to do with something with some type of mushroom. Anyway, I'm just trying to show you a little bit of stuff here that we're looking for here with the hairs. Okay, so this is from David Pilati's video from when him and Scott Carpenter and Dr. Melba Ketchum and all the scientists that she had on her team, they did the DNA study, the Sasquatch DNA study. So this shows you what the human hairs look like, and this shows you the scale pattern on the human hairs, the scale pattern on the human hairs, and the scale pattern on the Bigfoot or Sasquatch. So you'll see that coming up here too on some of the hairs we're looking at. That big huge scale pattern like that. And then also here they're showing the differences in the sizes of the hairs. The Sasquatch hairs are a lot thicker than ours. Alright, so I'm going to do that here. I'm going to take the clear nail polish. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to do 2 parts here. So these are plenty wide enough. You can do a couple of these on here. Okay, and then we're going to we'll take one of these hairs. So So I'm going to take one of these hairs and cut it. And lay it down in the clear nail polish. Okay, I got one really good one here. The other one, it might work, it's in there. So I got two of them here. So I was trying to put something behind it, see if that would help, where you could see it, but I don't know if it will. Anyway, I got two here. This one looks like it's going to be really good. And then that one's in the polish too. Okay, so I'm going to let this set for 15 minutes and then I'll pull the hairs out. Okay, so now I'm going to show you my first one here I did. I'm going to show you this. I actually had two hairs. I actually got two hairs in that one because I was trying to get it right, and the hair I put on this one didn't turn out. So I'm going to show you what this looks like now in the compound microscope. This is the first cast that I did, and you can see the hair. You can see how it left the outline of the hair and the scales on it. Okay, so 15 minutes is up. So I just took the two hairs out. So they're right here. So I just took the two hairs out. And then we'll be able to look at them under the microscope. The cast itself where the hairs were. Okay, here's the hair cast that we just did, the one I just showed you. This is the hairs off of the tire. The scales on the hair from the cuticles show up really good here. You can see how they're really large and rough looking. Okay, so the medulla here, the top one that they're showing here, the fragmentary or trace, and the discontinuous or broken, those are usually on human. And some of the human hairs don't have the medulla, and some of them do, and they can be broken up. Where you find them in some of the hairs, they can be broken up. And the continuous medulla is usually in the animals. Now the hair from the tires, so we're going to look for the medulla. So this one has a medulla. This one appears to have a medulla. Here's the second hair from the tire, and it also appears to have a medulla. It looks like a continuous medulla. So this hair from the tire, the medulla is matching what Scott Carpenter and David Pilates is showing. It's showing a continuous medulla, and that's matches up to what they show. Now the human hairs. Winnett's shows a very little medulla, almost none. And then Robin's, I don't see any in hers. I don't see any medulla in her hair at all, at least in these samples here. With the one thing with the medulla here, the continuous medulla is supposed to be in the animals, and my bear hair samples are not showing continuous medulla. And the Sasquatch samples, that I believe these are Sasquatch samples, they're matching what David Pilates and Scott Carpenter showed, and what Dr. Melba Ketchum and their people, they sent the hairs off to a hair and fiber specialist before sending them to the DNA study to be DNA tested. So I believe that these hairs that we're seeing here that came from the tire, I believe they are Sasquatch. So I believe they are what David Pilates is showing here in his Bigfoot class, and what Scott Carpenter shows here in his book on the DNA study. Because I like showing my resources here too, so this is showing you some of my resources. Okay, and this is the part out of Scott Carpenter's book where he's showing and talking about the hairs and the DNA study with the hairs and everything they went through, getting them tested and getting them studied and doing the DNA results. Did quite a few studies here too as I started this video on forensics and hair forensics, things on the medulla, the cuticle, the follicle and the root, learning all the different things here so I could make this a lot better, more scientific video. So I did research on fibers, looking up fiber and hair comparisons. Alright, so I like showing the resources that I use. So David Pilates, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Scott Carpenter, a bunch of different videos that I've watched and studied online, on the internet, and on YouTube. And again, thank you to Troy Palmer. Troy gave me the digital caliper for measurements, so I used that on the hairs here. That turned out to be a really good tool to have along with this video here. First with the microscope that I've been using, and then I have a new one. I have a new one here, so I'm going to start using that too now. Right. Also, to me, there's not enough researchers doing anything with the hairs. There's not enough researchers out there that are examining the hairs and showing where they're finding them and examining them themselves. Usually what you hear about is the researchers sending the hairs off to laboratories or universities, and then the laboratories or universities turning around and telling them they got to pay a lot of extra money if they want the results, and then they end up not giving them the results. They'll end up telling them it was contaminated or something like that, and either they can't afford it or they can't get the results. So that's why I started doing a lot of my own research on the hairs and using the digital microscope, and now that I have the compound microscope too, I've been actually doing even more and learning more of the forensics of hair, the forensics of the hair, and doing the research on it. Alright, thank y'all for watching.